And Ellie is a masterpiece without the women, and that's in reality. Ellie is not the kind of person who women would play with, even though it seemed as if they were eligible for the Guy Gold Seco treatment, if you know what I'm saying. Because Ellie is a wonder made by God without God. Ellie is a masterpiece of all joyousship, and Ellie is the king of all saints, royalty, holiness, righteousness, purity, and Sayeto Filmete. Because Ellie is all these things naturally, and so many persecutors were there to take him out of glory arbitrarily, but he overstepped boundaries that no man could attain, achieve, or see. And he overstepped boundaries so vast and far large that everything went far past his lifetime in every which way, in plain sight of the public and every governmental agent place of everything, in high places, low places, and every other type of place. And so Ellie was blessed beyond all tabernacles of lordship, in plain sight, in spite of Jesus' presence standing right there with his glory. And Ellie's glory toppled his over without saying it. Nobody mentioned it, spoke the details of it, and nobody did anything about any of it. But Ellie was not the kind of man that men would play with, though. And that's the difference, because Ellie would sit with them until the end, until the bloody finish, no matter what. Because Ellie fought for righteousness, but men fought for their own tabernacle, so meaning their interest and their carnal likeliness. But Ellie was not the same as all men in any which way. But Ellie did things so advanced and far-tech that nobody will know it to this day. Ellie did things so extreme in the afterlife in a short amount of time that people would look over it and not think much of it. But man, if they could see the great deal of the T.I. Bobo ship, Meet My Viego, which is heaven's and talents for the treatment of the great angel Shirpo, who is what he is entirely. Because Ellie reign is so partique that nobody else would think about him or the things that he does, no matter what, because they can't see, achieve, or do anything about that measure of holiness that he holds naturally, which is more intense than what Jesus Christ had in his day in the old times AD Wozo. So Ellie was blessed beyond all things naturally, and nobody cared about him or anything he was saying or doing in reality. But he did make it possible for people to acknowledge him in righteousness and holiness according to the tabernacle of Shawshank Shepherd, which is the only thing that mankind could ever have confounded or found life or love in, or light in the first place, in the nature of the circumstances of the modern era of time from 1994 until 2024 in heaven's time. So Ellie was treasured wonder made by God without God. And man was there the whole time, and they did not notice the time of their visitation. And that's the secret and the mystery of quote-unquote Ellie, who is the king of the saints, glory, royalty, righteousness, holiness, purity, and all things pro yeso, which is heaven's italics for blessings, and all things of that nature for the new world from today on forward until all can get survived, no matter what. And that's who Ellie is, which is the same as Dexter Jerome Ray Jr. or Dexter Gardner or Dexter Ray Gardner, or however you look at it, Dexter Ray Jr., any which way you want to look at it. But the person with this governmental name was him, and with that social security card was him. And he was the one chosen for it, no matter what, because he himself by default was the only one positioned in this time and era that could have tackled the task that nobody else was aware of at the time, because they were dead from Pika Light Jericho, which is something from heaven and earth mixed unnaturally, and it struck mankind like a cinder block tool, and nobody saw it coming, and nobody noticed it while it was there. And that's what happened in the years 1994 until 2024. Nobody cared because they were not aware, because the unawareness, actually, if you will, was a part of the attack on the captors, if you will. Meaning those people who were captives, they were attacked. And that's why they didn't know. And because they lost the battle that mattered and counted. but they won things in the sight of man that mankind thought was astounding. But what they needed to win, they wasn't aware of, because they got defeated at the battle point at the standards. But Ellie did not, because he was positioned well, and he also decided not to. Yeah, so the positioning was relative. Anybody positioned well, to be honest, that's how you born in the earth. But I chose to do the things I must at the time unfitting for us both. And that's the difference. See, there's a lot of things that I don't give myself credit for because I didn't think it was worthy to mention. But it is. It's very important, because there's times when I climbed this hill and this mountain and nobody cared. And I did everything I was supposed to do and nobody was there at all. And when nobody was there, that's when I stayed the closest to my roots, which is heaven's light and heavenly light and holiness. Arbitrarily I did. And so I chose to do the right thing, as well as the fact that I should at the time in the era in history. And that's the difference between Ellie and any other man that exists. I chose to do the right thing when I didn't have to, until we got to the point where I didn't have to and I could still live. That's how it worked. And that's what happened. And so, since it's regularly not possible for God to attain such measures of righteousness and holiness, because it's not. Even if there's a being named God, he could not be on Ellie level. In all marks of tabernacle Hosiak and tabernacle of Ankh Shakika Yoko Slepper, which means that God is holy and righteous. But if there was a being named God that's not Ellie, he himself couldn't stand, because he wouldn't have the foundation to do so, because Ellie was there. And that's just the truth. So all these recordings amount to one thing. Whoever made them was blessed beyond all Tekro could, meaning beyond the holy Bebro of Mary, all the way to Christ Shepherd, all the way to Kiko Heaven, all the way to Prophet Nahedo and Moedo. Because whoever he was so blessed that he did things that everybody think you should do along the way. He went to Israel the best way he could. He spoke to all of these people. He went all the way to the ancient Maiatos, through space-time, genetic rezo, from now, in the future, or present. He did all these things in the afterlife in plain sight more than any media pastor or anybody else on the street beach level. He did things so intense and advanced that these people were not aware of his presence or development. But he himself stayed true to his nature no matter what, and he still was holy and righteous, even in spite of anything that was happening, like God or good. And so God is end, but Ellie is beginning. And so the new world came into existence yesterday. Obeto Itadio Kobaba, which is heaven's italics for Friday 12th of Saga Sova. And it happened so quickly, and nobody really paid attention because they were not at the level of comprehension as a God, if you will, would be. So it's not their business. But one thing they would know is that if a man was in the earth at this time, it was Ellie. And then in the new world and dimensions, that's all they'll tell me. Because they'll know from there, everything else went. And that's all we can be sure of. Because the standing point was Egypt, and it was Sodom, and that was it. But God himself was greater than what he saw and what they did. Because everybody know, if you righteous, holy, pure, and honest, everything should reveal itself to you naturally. But if not, you're in a Klyoke bar forever. And since Ellie or Dexter Johnny Sr. in the eyes of some is not the one chosen for it, then he's the one chosen for the blessing and everything that's best and good. So because he exists, some people, places, things, and beings just cannot be there naturally. And because he exists, they can't exist. Because even the deepest ranks of evil is no match for Ellie. Right, so because evil has to have a foundation and a bottom point. So if it's not evil, but it's not righteous, it's nothing in particular. Meaning, there's no enemies whatsoever. Block mighting, all things go. Echo.